Hey Zoe, welcome to the show.
Hey Tom, thanks for having me.
Absolutely, it's a pleasure. So for those of you who haven't met Zoe yet, Zoe McKey is the best-selling author of Find What You Were Born For, Discover Your Inborn Skills, Forge Your Own Path, and Live the Life You Want. Zoe speaks 5 languages fluently and provides communication and personal development coaching to clients all over the world. Zoe, it's a pleasure to have you.
Oh, thank you. Mine is the pleasure, actually.
Yeah, awesome. So tell us about your story and how you got started as an author.
Well, as an author, as I get started as an author, it's on one hand it's an interesting story, on one hand it's a very plain one. So actually, I didn't know anything about self-publishing world until I met my boyfriend, and he was the one who was more or less introducing me to this world. But for me to make this leap and jump into it, it was the bigger story. Like, I'm from Romania, a nice little country where Dracula is settled. Maybe this is the main thing people know about it. But it's also a post-communist country, which has a different background than the United States. Like, here, it was totally different culture and economic development as in the US. So I might say that we are still pretty like post-communist. So the capitalism didn't reach us. And why I'm saying this is because I consider this kind of reckless jump into the unknown a very big step to do, because self-published authors, like in this sense, they don't exist very much in Romania, and I don't know if in Europe. So for me to make this leap, it was a big decision. I was a student, I had my job, and I decided to quit everything just to do this. And when I was thinking about it, I was like, I have so many like weakness points in this story. First things first, I'm not a native speaker. Another one, I've never wrote a book actually about self-help. Although I was coaching people, I about writing a book like about my experiences and to publish it in this form. And third, I was like, okay, and how can I do it? Who will buy it? Will anyone buy it? So I was like full of questions, and it was my age too. Like I always say that I'm closer to 30 than to 20, but still like not, I don't know, 70 plus, sitting on a rock, meditating about life and have a lot to share. Still, I was like, okay, it's all true, but still, why to wait? Why to wait 10 years to tell something to people? Because you can never know who you can help. I get so many emails from like older people than I am that they read some good points in my book, which means that I might actually gave them something being younger. So it's like a great pleasure for me. So my starting of my career, let's say, was due to my boyfriend's idea, but I totally jumped in it, and I built my wings in the process.
That's awesome. It's got to take a lot of courage to do that. So I mean, what drove you though? Like, why quit your job? Why quit everything to focus just on writing?
It was not such a reckless step. Like, I didn't quit my job first and then I started writing, but I started writing first, and then it was all a process. I made this comparison in my head that I'm like, I'm the Harry Potter age, right? I'm the same age as the Harry Potter actors. Like, I grew up with them when they were like first year Hogwarts. I was first year in school. And as they went on, I grew up with them. And I put myself like, I'm first year in being a self-published author in Hogwarts, let's say. It's like a magical parallel universe for me. And now maybe I will like, graduate from first year slowly, because I'm doing it for 7 months, but I'm still on the road of learning it, and I'm still on the road of discovering it. So yeah, I guess this comparison can illustrate the stage I am right now, but I intend to master the Hogwarts at some point, and it's a very good thing that I can do it in a way that I'm publishing my books. I get feedbacks from my readers. I have a direct contact with them. They are writing me nice things. Sometimes I get critics, but most of the critics are very useful. Like, if there's like not a one-star review, like, okay, this was boring or not worth it, but something more constructive, from that I can learn also.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Well, I think you're very humble, because I was just checking Amazon and 3 of your books are at #1. in different, very competitive categories on Amazon. So it seems like you're doing something very, very right.
I don't want to fancy myself with this, but I have this feeling. I have the feeling that I did the right choice when I choose to start self-publishing, because the fact that I still don't get so many one-star reviews, and that I actually got a lot of 5-star, and there are some people who are already, like, we are in a direct contact, and it's so crazy because they're from Brazil, from Ireland, from New Zealand, and they are buying my books, and sometimes I just send them already, like, for free before even publishing, so they read it through and get an opinion about for me, and it's very helpful, and I feel that I improve book by book. Like, yeah, I wrote a lot in the past, like, 7 months, and some people like ask me that, how can I write so quickly? Like, what's my secret? How am I sure that I produce a good quality work, right? Because, like, I write an entire book, like, in a month, let's say. And I always answer them that I consider them like it's a jar of pickles. Like, I have my niche confidence and perseverance as a pickle jar. And there are different sizes of pickles. And some people might like smaller pickles, right? The other people might like the bigger pickles. And it's still pickle, but it's different. So I wrote my first book, Unbreakable Confidence, which, like, my background story, like, long story short, I moved from home when I was 14, and I lived completely alone for like 11 years. So until this point, when I quit my job and moved away and moved back to Romania, I was living in another country, and no parental help, nothing. I started there at the age of 14 from zero, like, that I didn't know anybody, and like a 500-mile circle around me. So I really had to start everything from zero. My dad left me there with all the money he had, which was, back then, 2006, I think it was like $30. So from $30, like a parental like hug, I had to figure out everything. And I think that I went through a lot of I might say adventures, some pleasant, more unpleasant, that I can tell people. And this forged somehow the person from me who can share something with others, which I feel that in this particular niche, I have some things to say to people which might be helpful, because I've been there. I've been through hardship. I had to figure out how to make money at the age of 14 or 15, how to get along with people, because I noticed very quickly that if I don't get along with people, then I won't get anywhere. So I learned how to speak with my classmates, how to speak with my teachers, how to speak with the canteen lady to just have a good connection with them, so we can help each other. And I quickly realized that some sort of reciprocity is in this world. Like, I give something, they give something. If I don't give, they won't give. So my first job was a dishwasher, and this is how I got first-time food, because I approached the canteen lady and I made a bargain with her that I wash her dishes and she gives me the leftover. And so it was like a good deal. And since that point, I became, like, as you can see on Amazon, I now have 3 books, like, having a good review and a good score in that ranking. So Unbreakable Confidence covers more or less these 10 years. This was my first book. But then I was thinking that maybe for somebody it's not helpful, because, okay, I went through these things. I wrote everything the best I could in that book. But then I was thinking that, okay, but maybe somebody has other problems with their confidence. So Build Grit came. Like, how to be perseverant. It's a different angle, a different size pickle. It's still pickle, but it's a different one. Then I was, okay, somebody has lack of confidence because they are not perseverant enough. But then what about those ones who have some fears, like very deep fears? So I wrote Fearless, because same pickle, same jar, different pickle. So this is how my ideas are coming. It's not necessarily, I wouldn't even consider them books in that regard. I read a lot of researches, and I read a lot of studies for them, but I just consider them the, monthly Zoe McKey confidence boost, which is coming for people from different angles. And until now, I can, like, say that I did an okay job.
That's awesome. Well, I mean, your story is inspiring. I mean, I can't imagine, being left on my own at 14 with $30 and having to survive. So, you've been through a ton of life experience, even though you're still quite young. And I think that's, it kind of shines through in your work that you have real life experience. And I love what you said about, if you don't give, they don't give, and how you had to connect with other people to survive and to build good relationships. And I think, so many people today, we don't have those skills. We're so pampered, especially in America. I think a lot of us, we're so pampered by our parents and schools, and, and when we don't have those challenges and struggles, and we don't learn to communicate well, everyone's staring at their iPhone and their computer screen, and no one's actually talking to each other. And so it sounds like you've really developed, those communication skills just firsthand from real world experience, because you had to survive, which is amazing.
Oh, thank you. Well, it was like, it was not very much a choice for me. It was whether I did it, whether I just got lost. Like, as a teenager, it's very easy to get in a bad company, in the wrong path, being alone without parental guidance. And yes, I somehow managed to not. I say that I have nothing to be ashamed of. So whatever I did, I was like teaching my classmates. I was doing, like, I had very weird jobs. I was in a car factory, a car tire lifter, which was a bit rough. Like, I did physical labor. I did everything to survive. And in the process, I got to know, like, very interesting people. Like, there in that car factory, the blue-collar workers, I was in a very good relationship with them. We were playing cards and stuff, and they were sharing their experiences, their pain points, their struggles with me. So I got a lot of knowledge about how do those kind of people live. Then I was working in a language school where we were going to we were going to Malaga, we were going to different countries to these big conferences, and I met billionaires, like literal billionaires, and with these people I also had the same conversations. They somehow opened up for me, and I was once sitting with an Indian guy who has like hotel chains, and which surprised me, and it was, okay, sounded funny, but it's very sad at the same time. He has slaves at home who are like treating him, car driving, like not those kind of slaves we see in Spartacus, but like some sort of modern one. So in India, this is still like an existing thing for billionaires, which is like very weird. And with this guy, I also had a conversation. He told me his pain. And it's very interesting to see how many people are in this world, how many problems, how do they see them? And, you realize after a time that the problem of the worker in a car factory and the billionaire are not that different. And this is how I could write all my books, that I had met so many people in my life in these 20x years that I feel that I really can at least tell people that I know what they feel, I know their pains, and I maybe sometimes just the knowledge, the notion that somebody understands you and it's there can be helpful. And if he says or she says a good point or two good points, it's even better. Then you got the help. But sometimes if just somebody can understand you and talk with you, is already like a big deal.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we actually had another guest recently, Mark Goulston, who wrote a book called Just Listen, which is amazing. And in that interview, he talks about, just listening to people and how important it is that when you just totally listen to someone, it can change their life. It can transform their life, because most people, very few people have those listening skills, and so most of us, we're trying so hard to communicate and express ourselves, and no one's listening. It can be very, depressing and cause so many kind of psychological problems and pain. And so,
excuse me.
I was gonna say, it sounds like you have those listening skills from your life experience, which is amazing. It's great. It's a great gift to have.
Yes, actually, now I'm making a research about listening skills. Now that good to mention, I was reading a lot of studies about listening skills, even a Vietnamese one, why do people like it? And it was presented in form of language exams. Like, I don't know if in the US is it a thing or not, but in Europe, definitely, like, people speak multiple languages, and we do some exams to prove this, so we can show it in our CV, blah, blah. And like, there are three parts of this language exam: an oral part, a written part, and a listening part. And it's proven worldwide that the listening part of these language exams get the lowest score always. Like, in every country, the listening part is the lowest. Why? So this is what I am looking up to. And I discovered in different studies that it can be deducted to as many other things to our educational system, that in our schools, it's no attention paid on listening skills. Like, we learn how to write, we learn how to talk, we have some like tests taken, like oral exams when you go in front of the class and blah, blah, blah. If you know nothing, then you just present yourself how awesome you are, getting an F, and you go back. We even have competition of speaking, like presenting some poems, or the spelling contest in the US that is so popular, like Z-O-E, Zoe, yeah, or things like that, but no listening skill. So I think that people should realize this, because it's as important as communication skills. So listening is, I think, is just as important, equal value as speaking, because this is how you can make connection with people. So I'm figuring to just write a book, actually, like in the row as I'm doing like another pickle book, the listening book, like some tips which I could give for people, that they should practice it themselves. Like, call a friend for coffee, or like go and catch some Pokemons, or I don't know what's the newest trend now, to spend time with others, and focus only on the listening part. So ask a question about your friend, or about even a stranger, and then just listen what he's telling. And even if it just turns into a small talk, like, what did you do this weekend? I played football. Oh, that's cool. I was like doing nothing. So instead of just saying like an average answer, okay, your friend was playing football. So there are so many other things you can ask about football. Since when is he playing football? Does he love playing football? Does he have some friends around football? Why does he play football above all games he could play? And you can get so many answers just from that one simple information if you listen. If he answers that, oh, I play football because I consider it a cool thing to play, then you can say that your friend, like, I don't want to say it's superficial, but for him it's important to impress others, because he's playing football to impress others, because it's cool to do, right? So you can have like a knowledge only by listening to the background information. Or if he says that I play football because I played it since I was a kid because my best friend was playing football, then you can deduce that maybe he's emotional type. He's still playing football because of the memory of his best friend, or whatever. So there are so many things we can find about others only by listening and then asking questions related to their answers. So
absolutely, that's beautiful. Can you share some examples from your life, Zoe, where your listening skills have really helped you? Either something surprising happened or amazing opportunity came by, just through listening?
Actually, yes, I can. I was working as a coach in an organization in Hungary for almost 2 years, but I started as a person who was coached. So long story short, our job was like, there is a small Japanese community in Hungary. And these people, sometimes they share their thoughts, like they're very lonely, they're businessmen and stuff. And, when they go out for coffee or something, there are these like people who are talking with them. And like the Hungarians organized it somehow like this to just make them feel like the people care about them and ask questions, and they can really like make friendship with these people in this organization. And I was like one of the people who was making the friendship with these guys. And of course you need mostly listening skills, sorry, to do that. And by this, I got a lot of experience. Like, I had to listen to their pains. I had to ask the right questions from them to give them more comfort. Like, how was your business day? How was the thing with your family? Do they miss it? And you can find so many things out. And actually, by being a good listener in this job, got me in 6 months to be the coach of these people. So I got the coach of the coaches, let's say, just because people got good feedbacks about me. Like, Zoe is very good. Like, Zoe, I like speaking to Zoe because she doesn't say a thing. So she's just listening. So it was so funny. And somehow I got upgraded or promoted to the position of main coach. And I was actually the coach of the girls. So there were like some guys in the same position and I was, and there were some girls, and I got 15 girls to work with together, then to coach them how to listen better. Because the guests' feedback were positive about me, saying that I'm good at this thing. So yes, I don't think it was very consciously done, but somehow it got me to a good position. And this was the job I left for writing, actually. So yeah, listening skills can prove useful.
Absolutely. Well, and I know you continue to do coaching and personal development work with other clients, right? So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Of course. Well, I have some clients around Europe. I have somebody from New Zealand. I have a Brazilian guy. So usually my coachings look like we're having a Skype call, and it's again mostly based on listening. So these people who are connecting with me are, what I notice when I coach, that mostly people know their answers. So by coaching, my position is not to give them advice. It's not my position to outsmart them, to just say something about after they say, like, talk to me half an hour to say that, I made the diagnosis and this is your problem. But I should just ask more, ask deeper, and ask until the point they give me their own answers, because I don't see a point of just telling somebody something and then take full responsibility upon yourself if he's not doing it right, or if it's like I made the wrong diagnosis about his problem and he's like making a mistake, and then he points the finger on me, because then I take responsibility somehow from that person and I put it on myself. And here the point is not to take upon me the responsibilities, but to make him understand that it's his responsibility, but he's totally able to deal with it. And by questions, and good questions, and previously good listening, you can do that. So if you are not paying the attention on this very specific things he's saying, but what is underneath these things, like what does his mimics look like when he says it, what is his tonation, does the thing piss him off or makes him sad or whatever, then you can ask some better questions about, like, I don't know what to say. Like, for example, I had a guest, like a client who was asking me that he has problems with his wife, and like they were like in a long distance relationship, let's say, because he was working in another company in another country, and they could meet like quite rarely. And he was telling me that the wife is telling him that and that and that, and that he put her on the point, because he told him that he's the one who is working here, he's the one who's sending the money. And since then the wife became even angrier. Oh, surprise. Like, yeah, of course she would become angrier, because she felt scolded. And I suggested him that why does he think that the wife became even angrier after this reaction? Like, he was all shoulders, like he doesn't know, because he was just hearing his opinion. And I told him that if your wife would have told you the same thing, how would you feel about that? And then he was thinking that, well, absolutely, I wouldn't accept it. And then I was like telling him, like, by question, like asking, turning him into the position of the wife, like how would she feel? Then he slowly started to understand what he did wrong. And then he was like, realizing that what should be the solution. I even suggested him to read the 5 Love Language book, which might also be some solution for him. And actually, after it, they came like in a better terms with the wife, and he started being more acceptable with her. And then he told me that the situation is much, much better. But he had to understand that, like, by every time before he says something to the wife, first put yourself in her position. Like, how would you feel if she would tell you the same thing? And so he somehow understood it. And it was a big fight, but it was totally worth it, because he was happy afterwards. So, yes.
That's great. It's such a great story. And it just really goes to show the power of listening and asking great questions. And it sounds like, you do that very well, which is really cool to hear. And he's, it's reminds me very much of, Socrates and the Socratic method of just asking people questions. And, I totally agree with that. If you ask someone enough questions, if you ask them the right questions, they'll figure out all their own problems, with your help. But, for them to do that all by themselves can be a lot more difficult.
Yes. So this is what I think, that my position is just like to guide them, just a guider, to guide them to the right path. Because sometimes people are just lacking the confidence to believe that what they feel on a gut level could be a good solution for them. But if somebody else, like let's say a coach, is telling them that maybe you should think about it, not saying that think about it, but just like try to put him to the right path, then they are thinking differently. Because sometimes people just need somebody to listen to them and to guide them and to ask from them a question. But they could ask from themselves, but it's not the same. So they just need company and understanding. I think mostly this is what lacks in this today's society. And as you mentioned, that American society, they are rather staying in front of the computer and phones and stuff. Maybe if we become a bit more social and a bit more interested in the other human being, then everything becomes much more interesting. Because I think that mostly the problem is that people approach others like very not interested, and you just say that guy is not interesting or that girl is not interesting at all. But if you're interested in them, I'm pretty sure you will find something interesting. It doesn't matter what kind of person we are talking about. And if you approach them with like a nice question, smile, and I know that smiling is like this very self-help mojo do it kind of thing, but I think that it's a very simple way to connect with the others. And by being simple to do it, it's also very simple not to do it. And people sometimes just don't smile. And I think if somebody just smiles, then it's an openness that you show to the other one. And that's like very, very important to make a connection, because that is solving like 3 sentences, which you should do the other way. It's like, of course, you're interested, you're smiling, you're open to get to know the other one.
Absolutely. That's great advice. Yeah. And it sounds so simple and like so easy. Like just a smile doesn't make a difference, right? But you know, you never know how it can change someone's life or how it can, you know, help you connect with someone on a deeper level. And, it's funny, I've seen, you know, like monkeys, for instance, like they pay very close attention to your facial features as well. And so they can tell, you know, how you feel by how your face is. And horses too, there's a study on the horses can tell, whether a human's in a good mood or not. Right. And they'll come either approach you if you're in a good mood, or if you're angry or upset or hurting, maybe they'll stay away from you and avoid you. And so, you know, how you communicate with people is much more than just the words that you say. It's you know, your emotions, it's your facial features, whether you're smiling, it's and whether you're listening or not, and you're actually paying attention to them, right? So there's so much that goes in communication beyond just the words that you say.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I agree. And good you mentioned monkeys, because I was just reading Ellen Peace's book. Well, I didn't read it in English, so I couldn't recall now the English title. It's like Body Language Encyclopedia or something like that, like if I translate it quickly in my head. And there was this about smiling, the importance of smiling. I was reading a little part, and it was like presented with monkeys, as you say, that it's very, you have to have an honest smile. So like smiling, it's not enough in itself, because like if presented with monkeys, like a monkey was like very angry and just showing the teeth, that is a sense of like anger. And on the other hand, when you like monkey smiling differently, then it was like a sense of like monkey is friendly. So smiling is not about showing your teeth, but to like curve it up and also your eyes to smile. So like, yeah, we can learn from monkeys, I guess.
Absolutely. Well, this is great. So Zoe, I want to switch gears a little bit, because I know that a lot of our listeners and a lot of my students actually also, like you, you know, that English isn't necessarily their first language, you know, maybe their second or third or fourth language. And a lot of them are really afraid of, you know, should I even write a book in English? Should I even try? How does that work? So I'd love to get your feedback and your advice on this, you know, for other people where English isn't their first language. You know, what does your writing process look like? How do you find an editor? You know, how do you do everything to make sure that your book is just as good as someone else who's where English is their first language?
Of course. Like, yes, it's totally, I can relate with those people, because this was my deal breaker question too. Like, how can I write a good book in English? And I pictured the worst case scenario, and actually it didn't happen. Like, as most of worst case scenarios don't happen. Like, you just sit down and write. Like my greatest advice, how to start the process of writing in English is just sit down in front of your computer. Like, of course, first pick a topic, like if you would do in any other language, pick your niche, make an outline for your book, but then just start writing. Like when everything you have done, like information and research, do the writing. Don't like mess with the grammatics and like words. Just write it plainly as you do, like as you would do it in your native language. And then you can like have plenty of time to like revision it, and you will realize in the second reading that it's not that bad. So just write down whatever you have inside you, and then you can edit it. Like my process is that usually I do an outline. Like first I choose my pickle, like whichever topic I will write about. I make like a 15 to 20 chapters outlining, which means that I put like 5 to 10 bullet points, like links, books, quotes, whatever ideas I have, which I want to put, like personal stories I want to put in that particular chapter. I do it for all, like it takes like 2 or 3 days process to make this outline for my book. And then I just start writing the chapter, like considering those bullet points I made, I just start writing in English language, this chapter. And when I'm done with all the book, I run it through it again. Actually, I can recommend a program for first-hand aid, which is called Grammarly.com, which is correcting the biggest mistakes you have. Like it's not enough for non-speakers. It's not enough just to run through Grammarly, but it's a good start to do if you're very concerned about your grammatics. And then I was looking for editors on Fiverr.com and Upwork.com, and I wouldn't say that I had bad experience with this, but I didn't have so good one either. I would recommend, like I personally found an editor through a friend who knew another editor, so it's like a bit complicated story. But if you just want a quick solution, then I think Upwork or Fiverr can be a good point to start at. And if you want a very good editor, then just email me on Zoe McKey gmail.com, and then I will tell you about my editor, who is a very good one for non-speakers.
Awesome, thank you. I think a lot of our listeners will love that and really appreciate that. Thank you, Zoe.
Sure. So I can provide this information for you guys if you want like a very good editor for whom you can rely on. Like she's very punctual, and she's a very good English speaker, so she can correct, like she's very sensitive on the topics. Like some writers are like, oh, why does the editor think that she's smarter than me, and why does she correct all my sentences, or why does she write differently, why does she translate it differently than I wrote it? But she is like, where the thing what I wrote, for example, like I write a lot of Hungarian like proverbs and stuff like that, which make no sense in English. She just puts there a box and she says that, so this is no meaning in English, sorry. So please think about something else, or did you mean, and she's like trying to figure out something which has its English equivalent. So she does that, but I think editors in general do that. So for non-speakers, I think it's very safe ground to just find a native speaker English editor, possibly from the United States, if their main clients are there. Because if you choose somebody from England or Australia, they might use different words, different, I don't know, proverbs or dialect, and that would be confusing for the US readers.
Definitely. That's great advice. Thanks, Zoe.
Sure.
Yeah, so you shared some amazing info with us and really appreciate it, Zoe. And I think people would love to hear where they can find out more about you and your books and learn more about you.
Well, my books, as I told, like they're more about self-confidence, and I really don't recycle my stuff. So each book has like different topics, different stories. I tend to write my books in a like telling always a story too, where they can relate. I always do a research, so if I say something, then it's study proven. Like I don't just hit on my head and I just say something to say something, but it's like that, like it's right. Actually, my favorite book of what I wrote, like my personal favorite book of my books, is Fearless, because I think that represents the most what I am. That book, it was written in a story mode. like I put here a parenthesis. I started writing a book when I was 14, and it's like a fiction book. It's a totally fiction book. I'm a history addict, and that book is like totally history based, and I still write it. So at some point I might publish a fiction book, which will be very, very long and very action-packed, but parenthesis closed. So this non-fiction book is a little bit like in a story mode, which I can very much connect with fiction stuff. So I present fear, like fearless. It's, of course, dealing with the problems related to fear. So I consider the person, the actual person, the reader, as being the hero of his story, and his brain is his mental kingdom, from where he was kicked out by the evil king, fear, and his bad advisor, failure. So they are going, like the old book is constructed in a way that, or like hero, the reader, is going through chapter to chapter to retake his kingdom, his mental kingdom, from fear and failure, from the fear of failure, basically. It's like, it's happening, right? Like when we fear failure, then it numbs us and totally we lose the control over our brain. And of course, everything is like, I give a lot of advice about how to defeat fear and which are those steps, which are the allies that can help you regain the mental kingdom, which are the obstacles you have to face, which is the process. And then, of course, the like final chapters, the big showdown between you and fear, and how can you overcome it. And it's a twist at the end, but I won't tell that because that's a secret. I would spoil the story.
Yeah. Awesome. Sounds like a fun book. I'll have to check it out. So Zoe, thank you so much for everything you shared with us today. I really appreciate it. And where can people go to find you online and connect with you?
I have a website. It's zoemckey.com. McKey, it's like McDonald's MC, and key, like, you know, what you open the lock with, like key. I also have a Facebook page. It's like facebook.com/Zoe McKey with the same parameters I just described before, and a Twitter page, twitter.com/Zoe McKey. And also, if somebody needs the editor, for example, then they can just write me a message on my website or directly to zoemckey@gmail.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Zoe.
Oh, sure. Thank you for having me, Tom.